it's well worthwhile to put a certain percentage of our attention on the more general and futuristic, speculative aspects for a couple reasons. One of which is that that's a part of planning for the future. I mean, as Steve Omohundro noted in the panel that closed off the main portion of the conference, one aspect of making a roadmap for AGI is knowing where you want to go and knowing the various issues involved with the end state of advanced AGI. So we're gonna have a number of contributed papers which have been published in the proceedings. But before that, I wanted to start off with Natasha Vita-Moore, who is one of the leaders of futurist thinking in the last couple of decades, and one of the founders of the Extropy movement, which has really been one of the groups leading the thought process that our culture has been having about the future of technology, AGI, nanotechnology, biotechnology, and the whole massive advanced technology. So she's really going to give us a futurological and a futurist perspective to try to place the specifics of AGI in context. And then we'll go on to the talks, which are more focusing on AGI in the specific. I read a book a couple years ago, which I very much enjoyed, called Solving Tough Problems, which I'd recommend a lot. It's by a guy named Adam Kahane, K-A-H-A-N-E, and he went into some very difficult situations, such as South Africa around the time of the breakdown of apartheid, and really tried to bring together people who were opposed to breaking down apartheid and people who just wanted a revolution immediately, and all sorts of different views radically opposed to each other, and got these people to sit down in a room and went through a series of exercises and a process with them that actually got them to talk to each other and make some progress toward understanding each other's perspectives, which actually did seem to play a role in the relatively smooth transition that happened in that country. And in his book, he describes many cases where he tried that process and it failed miserably as well. So it's not by any means a cure-all, but I think the basic idea is to gather groups of people together and explore specific possible future scenarios in depth. Like what if this happened? How could we make that happen? What would the consequences be? What would this happen? And take a few specific options in terms of scenarios that a situation could develop into. And what I want to discuss now for the next couple minutes is briefly mention some of the scenarios that can occur in the future of general intelligence. And I'm going to, in the interest of being able to say anything, I'm going to take a more sort of concrete point of view, because I think what Natasha did is great and gives a general menu of approaches to thinking about the future of any technological area. I'm going to take one particular approach, which I'm not sure is the correct approach, but is one that's interesting and fun to talk about anyway, which is look at Werner Vinge, who's a great science fiction writer and a brilliant thinker overall. He posed the notion of a singularity, and he proposed the idea that sometime within, not thousands of years or millions of years, but maybe tens of years, was his thought, we could have AIs much smarter than humans with incredibly profound effects overall. And this idea has been popularized most recently by Ray Kurzweil in his book, The Singularity is Near. And Ray, being prognosticator rather than a science fiction writer, has put a date on it, 2045. So that's it. I'm 41 years old. If I keep eating my vegetables and getting some exercise, I may make it. No, I don't have that much confidence in any particular date. It could occur sooner. It could occur way later. But I think the idea is a really fascinating one. And if we take the singularity as one kind of family of scenarios that might happen. We develop a superhuman AI and it transforms everything. There's a whole bunch of sub-scenarios that are worth thinking about. Some of them are in science fiction. We have the Terminator, which not only involves Arnold Schwarzenegger getting naked, but it involves AIs becoming superhuman and basically enslaving humans to do their bidding, which doesn't seem the most plausible future to me. I'm not sure why it would be that useful to them if they were that superhuman, but it's certainly a scenario that has appeared often enough in the popular media and culture. We can't dismiss it entirely. Another possible scenario, which I think is more plausible and more desirable, although not a utopia, is AGI is developed to a superhuman level, and not an unboundedly superhuman level, just enough to kind of maintain a status quo. You got surveillance, cameras everywhere watching us, and the AGI may ensure that everyone's life is perfectly happy until you start thinking about designing a new AGI system. Then all of a sudden you find you're thinking about what you're going to have for dinner instead. Right? I think this is a plausible medium-term possibility, which is not actually the worst case outcome. You can imagine a productive life, proving theorems, playing music, hanging out on the beach under the watchful eye of the AI Big Brother. And it's a scenario that's interesting to explore. Then we have Utopia, which is not very well defined, not even clear that it's consistent with the human motivational structure, but the idea that somehow AGI and the Singularity are going to bring us all paradise, which I think is not as common a point of view among futurists as paradists would make it out to be, but is again something that's been discussed. If you're familiar with the book by Charles Strauss, what's the title of the book?
Accelerando.
Accelerando. He has an interesting point of view where we have AGIs that just become so much smarter than humans they have no use for us. That's also a viable possibility. We make a superhuman AI and it says, well, we'll see you later. Goodbye and thanks for all the fish. There's a variety of other scenarios that we can envision. And there's a point of view on all this, which is probably not that common in this room, but there's a point of view that these scenarios are just too scary, and we can't control what's going to happen. So one scenario is stop working on AGI intentionally and just don't do it. Bill McKibben wrote a book called Enough. Let's live as humans. Let's develop simpler technologies that enhance our lives. Develop maybe narrow AIs as tools to eliminate the need for annoying work, get rid of disease and violence, and just live happily. And Bill Joy has been a prominent advocate of this perspective. He wrote an article, Why the Future Doesn't Need Us, 8 years ago, arguing if we did continue with AGI, we're almost certainly screwed, just like the dinosaurs were when mammals emerged. So why do we want to do this? Do we want that badly to create something better than ourselves if us and our wives and children are all wiped out? Kurzweil has taken a more optimistic point of view, what he calls fine-grained relinquishment. So what he thinks is that by judiciously choosing the right path to take and which paths to avoid, we can craft a future where powerful AGI sort of evolves and grows together with us. So it won't be us versus them, but we'll be so fused with them, maybe by plugging them into our brains, by interacting them with online, by becoming cyborgs, that AI and human are going to evolve into the future together through sort of judicious partnership. And Eliezer Yudkowsky, who we have in the room here, has been quite effective at pointing out the distinction between making an AGI and making an AGI that is going to be able to cooperate with humans and be beneficial to human beings as we evolve. Kind of pointing out that failing at building AI may be frustrating personally and bad for your research career, but succeeding at building AI, yet failing to give it a controllable trajectory and a proper ethical system, this is a lot worse. It not only ruins your prospects for tenure, but I mean, it may annihilate us all. So, and there are some very hard problems here, as I mentioned in my intro to the AGI conference. How to make an AGI system that can get smarter and smarter and smarter unlimitedly, yet as it becomes vastly more intelligent than us, still has any prayer of behaving in a way that we would desire is a difficult problem. Once you figure out how to do that, actually getting that done instead of some alternative way to AGI that is less beneficial is also a very hard problem, which are problems that we should talk about here. there's a possibility of a sort of pragmatic approach where you teach AIs and robots and virtual worlds, integrate them with human society, try to teach them ethics the same way you teach a human child ethics. The probability of success at that we really can't estimate rigorously right now. At the 2006 AGI workshop, Hugo de Garis made a comment that was fairly apropos, which is the initial condition of the superhuman AI will determine its ongoing evolution in the initial stages. Right? And I think that's reasonably apropos. And the other comment Hugo made in that workshop, which I've not gotten him to replicate, so I'll try to copy it, is the question was asked to him on a panel, well, once a superhuman AI has achieved godlike powers, then how is it going to respect human desires and intentions? And Hugo said, oh, there's a fly in my arms, right? I can't do it as well as saying, but we've got it on video. But, now, I'm not saying that's necessarily the conclusion, but it's certainly something to think about. On the other hand, Natasha's partner, Max Moore, has pointed out something called the proactionary principle, which is building AGI has dangers and risks. On the other hand, the human race has got a lot of other problems, and not building AGI also has significant dangers and risks. As Stan pointed out in his concluding remarks, there's a large intersection between what we need to do to build AGI and what we need to do just to understand how the mind works. And so understanding the mind has a big risk. We may build an AGI that does bad things. Not understanding the mind has very bad risks, many of which we see in human society all around us, which just get worse and worse as technology develops. So there's no easy answers. There's a lot of scenarios that need to be explored, and we don't understand any of these issues very well, but at least it's got to be better to talk about them together than not to, at any rate. We actually have 8 contributed papers here, and a couple of them were by co-authors of mine who unfortunately didn't show up, so I may end up skipping one.
Can we clap after your talk before you do it?
Want to clap? All right.